Never before has the gap between stationary and portable solutions been so small as it is now. The device that I present to you today is absolutely fantastic and shows us that this gap is indeed closing in on itself. The GPD Win Max 2 is against all odds and all-in-one. Equipped with absolutely incredible components, particularly the CPU and GPU, nothing is missing. Even an optional 4G modem is available. As we can now observe, it can stand on its own as a laptop, a dock computer not unlike a Nintendo Switch, a cell phone, and of course, a superb handheld gaming console. But before we start, please know that I bought this device myself and that no partnership has been established between GPD and I. But even if it would have been, integrity is at the heart of my personal values, this channel, and therefore this review. And of course, we will cover the pros and cons versus the Steam Deck, its main competitor. As we say in French, allons-y. Starting with the construction of the Win Max 2, we find a chassis made of aluminum and magnesium, dressed with its distinguished gunmetal color. Branded proudly, we'll find the embossed GPD logo in somewhat of a mirror finish, very stylish with excellent grip and feel. At the top is ventilation outlet, two USB-Cs, one of which is compatible with external GPU enclosures, so USB-C 4 and the other being USB-C 3.2 Gen 2. Both able to charge a Win Max 2. This one can go from 0% to 50% battery in approximately 20 minutes with the included 100-watt charger. We find a charging indicator LED, red when charging and green when completed. There is a HDMI 2.1, and yes, we can deliver 4K at 120 FPS. We tested it, it works. A USB-A 3.2 Gen 1, a 3.5mm jack with stereo and microphone support, specified by GPD to be compatible with the wired headphones from Apple. We have, of course, L1 and R1, which are mouse, switch type buttons and not membrane, and L2 and R2, which are throttle axis with gradual inputs for use cases such as braking, accelerating, and a racing game. Discreetly camouflaged are two magnetic pads neatly tucked. We'll come back to their use shortly, but we'll put them separately for now. On the right side, we find two other USB-As of same specification and the very first of our 4 speakers. Below are 2 more speakers, but also the power button, which also serves as a fingerprint reader to quickly unlock windows, and how convenient. To the left, we have the 4th and final speaker, a high-speed SD and micro SD card reader that are spring-loaded and therefore sits nicely leveled to the Win Max 2, and then a small hole to reinitialize the BIOS. Finally, the base accommodates 4 anti-slip pads, our air intake to cool our components, a door to install the optional 4G modem, an expansion door for a 20 to 30 SSD, as well as 2 buttons that can be configured according to your preferences. We'll come back to this a little later. Now, for the innards of our device, we find a 16 by 10 IPS panel. The maximum resolution is sitting at 2560 by 1600 with a refresh ranging between 40 Hz and 60 Hz, ideal for prioritizing battery life versus frames per second. Very important to clarify, for the very first time in a mini PC, the panel is landscape type rather than portrait. This highly appreciated change means that we will have a greater compatibility with video games, especially with slightly older titles. A rather amazing change for retro gamers and everybody else. Always in the spirit of not missing a single thing, a digitizer is beneath the screen, enabling active type stylus for up to 4096 pressure points, thus being able to be a tool for drawing, modeling, architecture, play OSU, etc. Right below the screen is a 2 megapixel webcam, which, while not revolutionary, should be fine for a Zoom video call or even Microsoft Teams, and a pinch it could be used for streaming as well. Oh, and while we're here, our metal plates are used to cover gaming-centric inputs in order to better fit a professional environment. But otherwise, we find 2 Hall sensor analog sticks, both equipped with L3 and R3. For anyone unfamiliar with these, remember the big controversy around Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons? You know, the drift problem?
or the analogs that wear out and the dead zones that widens on popular controllers from big brands such as Sony and Microsoft. Well, this kind of problem is basically impossible with Hall sensor analogs, relying instead on magnets for their X and Y axis values, promising more stable and durable reliability.
The D-pad is also very comfortable, not without reminding us of the PS Vita. We find switches here as well, both for the D-pad and the ABXY array. Never without the notorious select start combo, GPD also includes a menu button, which is the equivalent of the PlayStation or Xbox button on their respective controllers. Now, typical to GPD, I would like to draw your attention to the mouse controller mode trigger. This gives you the possibility to transform your peripherals traditionally used for video games into operating system navigation tools. When you activate the mouse mode, your right analog is your mouse, L1 is the left click, R1 is the right click, and R2 accelerates the cursor. Now, besides, GPD includes a program that we can use to configure some of the mouse mode keys, but also to change the force feedback of your device. Not very intuitive, but hey, now you know how to shut or dampen the vibrations. Then a tactile mousepad with physical click that supports default multi-finger functions such as right-clicking, minimizing windows, Alt-Tab, or even changing virtual desktops. And finally, we find a backlit keyboard with the function key for shortcuts such as adjusting the brightness of the keyboard, the screen, or even the internal fans, which also changes TDP. We also have a microphone. Here's an audio file captured from the Win Max 2 itself and playback. Never before has the gap between stationary and portable solutions been so small as it is now. The device that I present to you today is absolutely incredible and shows us that this gap is indeed closing in on itself.
Now I should clarify, the model we are looking at today is the AMD iteration, and if the choice is offered to you, it is strongly recommended to go with this one. Because although perfectly competent, the driver of Intel models are very lackluster, therefore giving the variant underwhelming gaming performances with a reasonable risk of not improving anytime soon, if at all.
With this now established, there are indeed two variants. The very rare Intel model equipped with an i7-1260p and the most common AMD model equipped with a Ryzen 6800U. The Ryzen is comprised of 8 cores, 16 threads, going up to 4.7 GHz per thread, and the GPU integrated into its processor, being a Radeon 680M, is part of the RDNA 2 architecture, therefore supporting DirectX 12 and ray tracing, of course with great limitations. But it goes without saying that 99.9%, if not all, of the games available today should run on this machine with variable performance. We find no less than 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5 6400 RAM in every Win Max 2, but 32 gigabytes is also available in various models. 128 gigabytes of SSD is the minimum offering, but just like RAM, GPD offer various options which can easily be user replaced as well. GPD's latest offering comes equipped with a 6-axis gyro capability, meaning that though strongly discouraged, you could play Wii Sports Bowling with your device if you feel like it. We'll address it a little later in this video, but until then, know that I am in no way responsible if you smash your televisions and monitors.
We find a Wi-Fi 6 antenna, Bluetooth 5.2, a 67 watt-hour battery, allowing approximately 2 hours of play under a full battery or more depending on the energy required from your machine for the resources used. And finally, as quickly mentioned a little earlier, we find 2 vibration motors for haptic feedback. Personally, I'm a big fan of haptic feedback, so this addition is welcome, but I know many would disagree with me. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of haptic feedback technologies? Are you for or against it?
Alright, let's address the panel. We are off to a great start as it's definitely a strong pro for the Win Max 2, one that demolishes its main competition, the Steam Deck. However, the success does not come without compromise. We've got a very pleasing package of contrast, colors are vibrant, and clarity is similar to our high-powered high-end phones. HDR is not supported, nor VRR, commonly called FreeSync at AMD or G-Sync at NVIDIA. The response time does not exceed 60 Hz, and the panel is of glossy type. The benefit of a glossy panel is that colors will often appear more vivid, and under powerful light, albeit highly reflective, some people will prefer to have no refraction, as otherwise visibility can become quite null as it spreads across the panel. I did sit outside with the console midday, and as much as it works, the experience is not at its best, though it absolutely remains possible. A point that remains positive overall and in GPD's favor. On the other hand, the panel is very easily subject to fingerprints, despite its Gorilla 5 glass treatment, and above all, from my own personal tests, the panel remains subject to tearing. That is until VSync is activated. As like most PC gamers, I dread VSync, but I'm happy to report that enabling it brings no noticeable input or visual latency to this panel, at least after updating the BIOS, Windows 11, and AMD's Adrenalin drivers. Be aware, results may vary as an inevitable result of panel lottery.
Now, let's talk performance and what a beast it is. Right out the gate, we have an extremely competent CPU. To put things in perspective, we have nearly twice the performance of the Steam Deck, both single and multi-core. But of course, and as we all know, this gap becomes increasingly smaller when talking about the GPU. While Valve's poster child may be now 2 if not 3 generations behind in terms of processing power, the GPU was ahead of its time, making it extremely relevant still and in parallel with what we find in the Win Max 2. With that said, the Win Max 2 will still be the new champ, taking the lead in most situations, though not always. The Steam Deck remains particularly excellent for offering maximum performance with a very low voltage. The new 6800U from AMD requires more energy in general. So to simplify things, from 15 watt hour and more to not say 12 or 13, 95% of games will run better on the Win Max 2. And since this can go up to 28 watt hour dedicated to GPU, we will observe an average of 20 to 25% more FPS on the Win Max 2. As the battery is considerably bigger and GPD's 10.1-inch game top, it shouldn't affect your game time, which means that you ultimately have more flexibility in how you want to manage your device and its battery. I'll put on screen a list provided by the producer, better observed with reservation, of the different games that they have tested. On my part, I tested the most recent Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, and never fell under 60 FPS at highest resolution with AMD FSR set to performance. It goes without saying that all settings have been kept to a minimum in order to maintain the highest frame rate per second. However, if there is a particular game you'd like to see tested, let me know in the comments below and I'll try to do an elaborate test for you. Until then, know that I plan to make a video with several games on loop to demonstrate the prowess of this magnificent little computer who's too cute and oh so pretty, and give a big hug to Papa. Who's a good baby? Who's a good Sorry, I got a little carried away.
So here we are at what is, in my opinion, the weakest point of the Win Max 2. Do not be discouraged, the sound is not bad and it can be loud. However, the quality does not match its main competitors, after which some might say that this is also the most easily addressed con with a good pair of headphones, wireless or wired, and you will be absolutely right. On the other hand, with a device like Valve's, we find a sound with so much depth and subtlety that it is often incredible to believe that a portable console can sound so good. I would say that the sound of a Steam Deck is not unlike that of an iPad Pro or a Samsung S7 or S8. It is a sound that is rich even when the volume is relatively high. On the Win Max 2, the sound remains slightly muddled, all on the same layer, not bringing as much depth or detail. I would say that the sound is very similar to that of a cell phone, such as the most recent iPhone or Samsung Galaxy, but even these devices will produce better sound overall than that of GPDs. In short, perfectly usable for the need, but there's undoubtedly better.
Let's talk customization and gyro. First, you'll find 2 programs provided with your Win Max 2. The first will be used to modify certain keys, this exact same program that we quickly used for the vibrations a little earlier. And let's talk about the modification this time around of the keys on the back, commonly known as LC and RC. In principle, these 2 keys can be reused to simulate any other key, keyboard, or joystick. But you can also make a combination of up to 4 commands. So for example, you could do a command to open your task manager, Control, left shift, escape, or give you faster access to L3 and R3. Be advised, this is not a macro tool and the limitations quickly become apparent, such as a Hadouken will not work since the diagonal of the D-pad cannot be registered. Nevertheless, a good start from GPD, but a tool that we hope will be further developed over time. The Gyroscope program, on the other hand, apparently developed especially for GPD, is extremely complete even if it is not without its challenges. Of course, the gyroscope values can be mapped to control emulator games which were themselves programmed with gyro in mind, for example, say Zelda Skyward Sword, but also we can map the mouse or even the right stick analog to the SNIF-T tool, creating the possibility to add motion control to games not necessarily designed with it in mind, such as Minecraft, among others. Here's a quick footage. Though I haven't tried it, there seems to be a mode that allows the gyroscope to be transformed into a DualShock 4, thus maintaining compatibility when we are in remote play with the Sony application. That which absolutely requires a PlayStation controller in order to allow us to control our avatars. However, I strongly recommend not to use this input method in online games that have anti-cheats. Like for example, I desperately tried to make it work in Call of Duty to no avail, effectively making the Switch and Steam Deck the persisting better picks for gamers that favor precise motion control movements. But I'm still happy to see that we have a very reliable solution here, if not always compatible.
On a side note, on that same software do we still find system management tools that seems out of place or put there without too much thought or consideration. You'll find adjustments for the thermal envelope, TDP, adjust the speed of fans, create shortcuts to quickly edit those. Truth be told, we are offered a very practical tool overall, but some may have to dig where they did not think to look to calibrate to their liking. Or for less adventurous people, this might be best avoided altogether.
Alright, so let's go off script here for a minute. First, I want to apologize for the microphone because I believe you were hearing some interference, and I think the reason is because I was wearing an EMP chain this whole video, so learning. Hey, and yeah, so I have to reshoot the last part because it was just too terrible, so I figured I would take this opportunity to apologize at the same time. Alright, let's do it. We come to understand that this all-in-one solution is not perfect, but one point that may surprise more than one is the general comfort of the device. The Win Max 2 is sturdy, heavy, you'd expect it to be obnoxious, but that couldn't be further away from the truth. Never would I have thought that this device would be so comfortable. Its grip is extremely ergonomic and its weight is so well balanced that its long-term use is surprisingly very pleasant. I expected, when buying it, to have to compromise comfort for flexibility, but it is, in my opinion, an aspect which, quite on the contrary, in no way deteriorates my experience, but rather is so comfortable that it turns out to be a real charm. The base of the console sits perfectly in the palm of my hands, and all the controls are accessible without having to do any backflip, figuratively speaking. Even holding it with one hand to use the keyboard on the fly is done without any issues. I tell you, it's magic, so to speak. On the other hand, no pun intended, a slight inconvenience that I sometimes experience is the inside of my palm catching keyboard keys such as tab, caps lock, or other without realizing. It's rare, but it does happen on occasions. In conclusion, depending on the configuration of your Win Max 2, it'll range between $1,050 and $1,350 US. European and Canadian conversions are on screen. And as much as the price may surprise you, the question remains: what do you want to do with your portable game console? Because if the answer is playing modern games exclusively, well then look no further. The Steam Deck remains your best choice. Its value is unbeatable and its performance more than acceptable for its price. But for any other need, like wanting to use it as a laptop, or to play emulation games with top performance, or because you want an all-purpose device, or simply want to reduce the number of devices in your backpack, all while still playing modern games with little friction, for all these choices, the GPD Win Max 2 is, in my opinion, a device worth checking out and worthy of your attention. Because indeed, just like the Steam Deck, it is a fantastic portable gaming console, but on the other hand, the Win Max 2 is so much more. You can literally stream on Twitch right from your Win Max 2 with little to no loss in performance. You can do video editing, 3D modeling with this device. You can turn it into a performance brute with an external GPU. Frankly, the possibilities are endless. And although with a little bit of will, several other devices of its kind can moderately do well, no other devices will give you the quality of life, the possibilities and flexibility like a GPD Win Max 2. And so, the answer is up to you. What do you want to do with your next portable console? I hope this overview of the GPD Win Max 2 has been useful to you. If you enjoyed, liked, appreciated, or learned something in this video, I invite you to drop a like. If you didn't like it, well, a thumbs down it is. In any case, I invite you to discuss in the comments. Any constructive criticism is more than welcome. I answer to everyone. And finally, if you are interested in these kinds of devices and anything related to gaming, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell for the next video. As I know, this is a very well occupied space with the YouTubers that we all love in the lovely community. I'm here, I watch all of them. Hopefully there's a bit of room for a guy like me to keep you informed and entertained. And last but not least, tell someone something nice today and you'll be better for it. Until next time, thanks for watching.